for another one. A lot of you who were watching, you probably didn't even get to see the announcement. We didn't post it until this morning because we decided to do it yesterday. It's one of the things when you run your own business, you can drop things last minute. But then specifically when it comes to how I do my dialogues here, I have it to where we stream live, but then at the same time, it's recorded. So I can take it, I can chop it up and drop it on the platform here, drop it on the platform there. Plus the recorded version you can come back in and check out. So today we got a gentleman that I don't even really know really the specific year that we met. I think it was like 2020, 2019, 2020, maybe 2020. No, it was 2020 because it was before we did that initial car rally. That was 2021. Anyways, he's one of those types of people that you know how they say you got to surround yourself with people who you're trying to be like and or want to learn from. And there were certain things that he was doing in life that I started to see online. I'm like, man, I need that type of energy in my life. And we'll speak a little bit more to that here in a bit. But this is Legacy Dialogues, guys, where we bring people to you to discuss the things that they're doing in the world, the lives that they're impacting, and how they are currently doing the things necessary to leave a legacy, and how you can discover what you can and or should be doing to leave your legacy. So I'm not gonna waste any more time. I'm gonna bring the main man before you, Darren Trimmingham. What's good?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing, B Street?
Man, I'm good, man. Crazy, crazy. You and I, we spoke about this yesterday. I have been exhausted because I have been working out like crazy, and my body keeps telling me, sit down, get some rest, sit down, get some rest. But every time that I see you, I'm in your presence, all I think about is them gym videos where you
Mm,
just go in. And that's the thing that, well, one of the first things that really gravitated me to you. But yeah, man, we'll get to that part of the story. But I like to just really open up with just kind of allowing you to speak to the audience, letting the audience know who is Darren Trimmingham. Just give us a little bit about your background, where you're from, what you do, and like what brought us here today.
oh man, well, first of all, thank you for bringing me to this wonderful platform. Anytime you can get around a bunch of individuals that not only are enlightening, but you can kind of take pieces of their life and situate it to yours and learn something. I was always told that you can learn something from someone's mistakes and it will cut you time and money that you don't have to go through them. So it's something that I always like. I always like to be around people, one that I can learn from, two that are we always talk about motivating, but I don't think motivating is the right word because motivation is short lived, right? You still need the propellers and the know-how and the technical fortitude to keep on doing such things every single day. So what I like to do is be around people that are inspiring, right? Not motivational, inspiring. So that way it'll strike a chord in me and I can use that to my advantage and keep on every day. So a bit about me. Uh, Man, I don't want to
Where
say
to
I'm a jack
start,
of
huh?
all trades. I don't want to say I'm a jack of all trades, but I would like to consider myself well-rounded or continuing on the growth of well-roundedness because I believe the journey of life is never complete and there's always something that you're learning and always something that you're adding to your toolbox. If greatness is something that you're going after or you wanna achieve. So I grew up in Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. A very rough neighborhood, and went to Catholic parochial school as a child. Uh, Played college basketball, and just growing up in a tough neighborhood, it kind of gives you the know-how and wherewithal to persevere. Right, that was probably one of my uh, first names on social media. It was called Mr. Persevere. It was something that I learned how to do. One from my upbringing, having a family that was brought from England and in the Caribbean, and just realizing all the tough things my father taught me, himself being an entrepreneur and coming to this country from a small island and building himself up in real estate, and just realizing that. he's always told me, hey, I came to this country at 18 years, 17 years old, and I've always been my own man. I've always been my own boss. And it was something I always knew growing up. Being, we always had a grocery store, right? I had a grocery store for 30 years, and just growing up there, while other kids would go out on summer vacation, I was in the store packing boxes, packing shelves. I learned how to count money at a very young age. I knew that if someone gave me $100 and their bill was 781. They get back uh, $82.19. Like I know how to do it. I'm like a human calculator, right? And that was just because over repetition. So um, while kids were out going on vacations, I was in the store, in the mean streets of Brooklyn, just learning how to deal with people, learning how to communicate effectively, learning about behavioral analyzation and behavior communication. So all those things are a testament of how I grew up. And yeah, after that, I played college basketball, and basketball is still very big on my heart. And learning those things that sports give give to us, right? Those tools of persevering and mindset. Those are things that just came attached to me. And it was through the it was through the pandemic I met up with my childhood friend, Chris Holder, and we just had one conversation, man, and things just started to shift. He was just like, "Hey, you have too many attributes to just play the safe game." And he said, "Hey, just take this road with me, and I'm going to show you, and I'll show you some things, and establish you to some things you don't know and some people you don't know." That's when building my network started happening. That's when going to financial events started happening, and that's when the world started opening up. I started hanging around different people from different walks of life, uh, from different backgrounds, and people of different wealth categories. Once you start seeing those things and start seeing how wealthy people live, and you start understanding that they get that way by being very disciplined. There's nothing else that sets them apart from attaining certain things, and it's discipline. And it's sort of why I came up with some of the products that I came up with and manufactured, is because I know that those disciplines, most people don't have them. So if there's a place that you can get them and you can associate them with your life, you can change your life in leaps and bounds. So by day, I'm a protector of the city of New York. Um, and right after that, I'm a finance mentor and finance coach and fitness and spiritual coach. I try to show people how to get from one end of wherever they're at and get to the next step. And it might be little increments, but I know if I can leave you better than I met you, then I've done my job.
That's it. That's real, man. That's real. So I had to grab a marker, closest thing I could
Hmm.
find to write
Hmm.
with, and to jot down some of the things that you shared, because lots of times people hear interviews and they, hear people mention certain things about their background, and it just kind of goes over their head, and they don't take into consideration how things that you did in the past impact who you are today. So, the fact that you grew up in a rough neighborhood, that in and of itself prepares you for so many things in life. Like, cause life is gonna hit you upside your head 24/7 all the way till you gone. And when you grow up in an environment that pushes you to develop grit, to develop resilience and not, take everything personally, or if you do take it personally, know how to stand up for yourself. That helps develop you to be able to take what life throws at you, throughout time. Then the fact that you learn discipline working in, the store from a young age, whereas most kids, like you said, out in the streets playing ball, just kicking it, they're not really developing those skills at that young age, which you were able to do so. And then in college athletics, it takes a lot to be able to sustain the life of an athlete in college if you're going to do it the right way. Now, some of us, we do our thing, don't have any true structure, but it sets in a certain level of discipline as well. Now, something that you mentioned, and it kind of ties in with what your dad mentioned about being his own man, but also, your desire to just not settle for like the status quo. It made me think about this video that I referenced it in one of your clubhouse sessions before, where it mentions how most people will die poor. And it's because most people follow the rules. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to get a safe job. I'm going to work till I'm 65, and then I'm going to retire. But then I can barely survive the next however many years off of what I retired off of. So I leave nothing behind but bills and debts, liabilities. And when you go out on a limb, it may take a little time to get things rolling, but you can position yourself to be able to leave behind so much more than if you play it safe. And then, the last thing that I wrote down was, oh, the fact of when you met Chris, that was your change in environment. You know how they say you are you're a product of your environment. So you can be intentional about that and say, okay, I was born here, I was raised here, so I'm just gonna have to accept the fact that what I see around me is gonna be, what directly impacts my life. Or you can say, you know what, I'm gonna change my environment. I'm gonna stay inside when I'm home and not deal with all this mess, but whenever I do get around people, it's going to be around high quality people. So you did that when you started to tap into Chris's network, and that's how you and I met. And I knew there's I'm out of South Mississippi, and there is a very slow, very behind mindset of people down here. So I don't hang out with a lot of people back home here. I remember, and I dropped this on my Facebook a couple days ago with my daughter one day because her mom is always out and about doing things with friends. So whenever she's with her mom, they always on the go. It gets on my daughter's nerve because she just want to sit down sometime, but her mom is just going, going, going. And she was here with me one day, and she's like, "Daddy, you ain't got no friends." And I was like, I got friends, but my friends that I used to have here, they don't do things that's helping them move their life forward. They're just doing things that's going to keep them boring and keep them poor and keep them, struggling and not happy with life. They just do little things here and there to be excited, but they're not happy with their life. And I said, my friends are in Miami. My friends are in New York. My friends are in LA. And I go and hang out with them whenever I can go and hang out with them. And when we hang out, we really enjoy ourselves. And we hang out doing something that's still going to help our future too.
Mhm.
So, like, I'm very intentional with my environment where it's like, I don't leave the house unless it's something to do with my kids in school, unless I'm making a grocery store run. Every so often, I go and hang out with my lady, but she even knows, like, I've been zoned in, and I barely even go and kick it with her as of late. But that's the thing. We have to get to a point to where we know what direction we're going in. So we curate that environment that's conducive to that direction. So kind of give us a little bit of a transition. So you play college basketball. What was your life like coming out of college basketball? What was that next stage like in life? What was that transition for you?
Well, you come up with a lot of things, right? There's a real conversation you have with yourself when you realize, all right, I'm not going to the NBA. I'm not playing professionally. What you realize is, hey, I got to do something else. Sometimes it comes quicker than normal. Some people figure it out. It wasn't until I realized I was having a child, right?
Mhm.
Then I was like, I gotta do something. And being in Florida was very good for me. I used to live in Orlando, Florida, and I was attached to a church down there and had a lot of mentors around me. And one of the mentors I had was a police officer. He would come in and he would always, hey, why don't you look into law enforcement? And he would always just say, hey, man, I'm gonna have a good pension. But it was the way he talked about being in the military, and you could tell his life took certain steps, right? He was like, hey, I went to the military and I became a police officer. I've been here for 25 years. And I'm like, all right, cool. So it wasn't until I realized, okay, I'm bringing a life into this world. I have to put I have to put my foot down somewhere. I got to pick a lane. And I always knew I wanted to be in finance, and I always knew I wanted to take a crack at law enforcement. But I just I wanted to see how I was going to put everything together. And then I just started taking tests. And then I moved back to New York and started helping my dad on his transition from retiring. And then I just started realizing, okay, there's real estate, there's finance, and I just started putting my foot down in these things, and then I got with a police department, and then After that, I just started spacing my life out. I'm like, all right, I don't want to be a sheep. And what I call a sheep is someone that they do the regular thing, work 20 to 30 years, and that's it. We're just going to live off retirement, right? And then that's it. And I just always wanted to be more than that. I've always wanted to live a life on my terms, going anywhere that I wanted to, traveling anywhere that I wanted to. I never wanted any lack. I never wanted any limits. And then I knew to do that, I had to step outside of the box. I had to make sure that life was lived on my terms. And usually, if it's lived on your terms, you have to be in a certain percentile of income. And I knew that was the only way that I wanted to live.
So you had that intentional mindset. Like you knew I got to do something to get the life that I want. But something that you mentioned, which I feel like a lot of people fall into this category, but they don't necessarily have the right mindset to go in the right direction. You mentioned when you realized you were bringing a life in this world, it like made something snap. Like I got to put my foot down somewhere. Like I need to make a firm course of action now. And lots of times people just kind of sit back and wait for life to kind of hand them what direction to go in. um, I can even relate to that because I was in a sophomore year of college whenever we got pregnant with my son, and I had changed my major like a year prior, and I was trying to get my GPA back up because all I did was hoop and worked out. Like I go to class in the morning, drop my bags around noon, grab a quick bite to eat, and I'm in the pain center, the rec center, literally from like 1 o'clock to like 8 o'clock at night. And that was
That's
like
me.
that was like Monday through Thursday, and that GPA just started to drop, 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 drop. And it just so happened I got academically suspended and had a child on the way at the same time. So
You academically suspended when though I didn't think those two things would go in the same sentence.
that's the thing, man. I go and I speak at places. Usually, they read out my resume. You got all these degrees and all these accolades, and I try and like put the brakes on. Like, look, you guys don't realize. Like, don't think I'm Mr. High and Mighty. I'm a college flunky. Like, I got kicked out of college, but I made up my mind and I got back on track. So that happened in my life. I kicked out of school. I had a child on the way, and I was working at McDonald's. Now put those three together. So I'm like, this just ain't. It's not gonna cut it. So I had to make a decision that took me into industrial construction. So I was worked for a safety company in industrial construction, made me good money, but during that time, like I was barely home because it was an hour and a half away from home, and it was 12 to 14 hour shifts, and it was shutdown work. So I would work like 15, 20 some days straight before I had a day off, and then then I could come home and be home for a day or so. But I say that to say, when certain things happen in life, we have to understand that we got to make those temporary sacrifices. So, with you leaving Florida, coming back to New York, finally getting into your career, um, how long would you say now you've been in law enforcement space?
7 years.
7 years? Bad. So, while you're in law enforcement, between the time that you started and then you met Chris, or you reunited with Chris and started to take this this finance, this entrepreneurial journey. What was that transition initially like for you? Just to kind of get into the mindset, which obviously you got some of it from your pops, but to kind of get in the mindset of let me start to create something that's mine in a different lane, but in a lane that I know I'm passionate about. Like, what was that transition, or what has that transition been like?
So, I mean, when you talk about entrepreneurship, I guess you could say I was born in it, right? And so, like, you understand what it is now. Chris understands what it was before because obviously his parents. But it's daunting, right? It's a grind, right? Every single day, waking up. I would see my peers go on vacations, and I would see it would just be the store, school, store, home,
Hmm.
school, store, home. Everybody playing outside. I'm just like this, right? Like you just see kids riding their bikes and they have a bit of freedom. And you're like, man, I want that too. But I understood it came at a cost. Those kids who were riding up down the street, they may have been hungry. I never went hungry, right? So when you look at those things, right? I had a good structured home. I had Caribbean parents that really took me under the hip, and they just buckled down on morals and fundamentals and characteristics. And when you talk about the shift from just having a career and then adding being kind of like a wealth educator to it, it took a while. Not like if I could do this, but what's the goal here, right? And what I did was I just wanted to cut people's learning curve in a short period of time. What it took me to learn in 35 years, I'm going to show you it in a month, or I'm going to show you the steps to take so you don't have to pay to learn, so to speak, the hard way. So just talking with Chris, and it was kind of the trust thing too, right? Like when you hear someone say, "Hey, I'm making a push to do something. I want you with me on this run." You can either say, "Hey, listen, I don't know about this. It's just this is like shark territory here. I don't know about these uncharted waters." Or you
Yeah,
can say, "Hey, what am I going to do?" Right? Just like when you say, "Hey, D, I got you. Let's work on this together." There's no pushback, right? My mom always told me when it's time for change, you put pride aside. And a lot of people don't understand that, right? When you
correct.
want to go to the next level, you got to get rid of pride, get rid of ego, and you got to say, "This is where I'm at. What am I willing to do to get there?"
That's real, man. And that's it. You know, just thinking about some of the reasonings behind you getting into the wealth education space and helping people with their money. And this is one of the things that like kind of gets under my skin when it comes to entrepreneurs. Lots of people, yes, we like to experience a lifestyle, but lots of people see the lifestyle, and that's why they want to be an entrepreneur. They see the lifestyle and they're like, I want to live in that type of house. I want to drive that type of car. So let me be an entrepreneur. But they have no idea what they want to do. They have no idea what value they bring to the marketplace, who they want to help, and why. And you really need to know, okay, what is the problem I want to solve? What's going on out there that I see other people suffering from? What do I have that I can use to help them eliminate that suffering? So you mentioned helping people, you know, take the shortcut when it comes to some of the things that they're having to deal with when it comes to their finances. That's admirable. But at the same time, it's admirable for you to want to help others. But at the same time, what a lot of people don't realize is when you become dedicated to help others, you're really helping yourself even more. Just think about school. Who learns the most? It's the
The
teachers
teacher.
because they're saying the same thing, repetition over and over and over. So when you get into that space of knowing, like, this is my goal, this is who I want to help, this is why I want to help them, it really helps that process be so much more fulfilling. So, you know, you were mentioning earlier the fact of like you never went hungry because like you were putting in the work from young. Like, you know, your dad has you in the store, you're putting in from a an early age. So lots of people see that stage of entrepreneurship. They see when you've been in there for a while and things are running smooth, things are running steady, and they don't realize what those first few years or so actually look like. And I started my company 2018, and I already had work. I had a contract with university lined up, so I had right at 10 stacks that came at me as soon as I started my company. But there's been the roller coasters, and I shared something. I think I shared it on Instagram earlier, where this woman was saying like, "Oh, you want to be an entrepreneur, huh? You want to be an
Mm,
entrepreneur, so you want to be one of those ones who don't know if you're gonna have money coming in tomorrow or not, huh? So you want to be one of those ones that go to bed stressed out, wake up in the morning, see a check, you happy again, those bills come, and then you realize you ain't gonna eat until you work again.
mm-hmm,
Like there is no guarantee when it comes to entrepreneurship. You have to put in the work, and it's only after, which your dad was able to do over time. It's only after you get the wheels turning, you got the systems, and it smooths out, and it's more automatic. You get the residuals in place, you get the passive income that starts to come in. So kind of walk us through what those first couple of years and having your own business, what they've looked like for you, and like currently what stage you see yourself at.
Well, the first time when the business I started the business. I started the Trimmingham Group, and I know I wanted either to help people physically and financially. So that's what the Trimmingham Group is. What we do is we take an individual physically and financially wherever they're at, and we get them to the next level, wherever that next level where they see themselves. See, a lot of times people don't have vision. So if you don't see yourself as a hundred thousandaire, that's not what you're going to be. If you don't see yourself as a millionaire, that's not what you're going to be. If you don't see yourself as a billionaire or let's just say even a company owner, even to create your company, you have to see that vision, right? In the year 2020, in the pandemic, the most LLCs ever created. Some of those LLCs haven't created a dollar, but some people knew, hey, listen, I got to do this, right? Because it started opening the gateway to get some funds. But what happened to me when me and Chris put this game plan together of how I would create a business, help others, and start my entrepreneurial journey. I just understood vision. I understood what I wanted to do, but it was scary because you're just going into no man's land. You're going into the bank. You're taking your first $2,000. You're giving it to the teller. Hey, I want to open up this bank account. They're telling you, hey, okay, you got, and then that's the first journey. The first journey was understanding credit. I was a victim of identity theft, so that's another thing why I wanted to help people with credit. I understanding that getting your identity taken and people using credit cards, that's a tough thing to come over because checks getting garnished. I remember weeks making 400, making $900 for the week, but only coming home with 450 because the rest got garnished from some company that they said I owed, right? So I got that money back by the way. But until you understand how credit works, then you understand how business works, then you start understanding. Wait, I have to build a network. I have to get around people that share the same vision. That was the tough part. Realizing, hey, I'm no longer what I used to be. I'm no longer a person that just works and goes home. I work, go home, work on my business, or throughout the day, I'm constantly um, recruiting, or I'm constantly talking to clients, or I'm constantly making sure that I'm reaching out to people that need help, need to get to another, or constantly reaching out to people to just help. Hey, listen, I joined this network. Want to come? Yeah, it's better than what you're doing. Trust me. You go home and eat bonbons. I'm telling you, come out and meet some high level people. Maybe you make your first 100,000 in 6 months, right? So that's usually what it was. It was tough. It was challenging because you're walking into the unknown, but I was familiar with persevering. So I believe once you have some those attributes, anything is possible.
That's real, man. That's so real. And I'm just thinking back to, I don't know if it was 2021, 2022 when you made the vehicle transition. And I remember the conversation that was had beforehand. I remember, you mentioning how you just locked in and, you went step by step just as you were told. And like you mentioned earlier, sometimes we got to swallow our pride. We think we know what direction we're going in. We think we know we're taking the right steps. You ain't taking the right step. You're taking the right step based off of those broke bums that you used to hang around. But when you're around a different caliber individual, your steps are going to be a whole lot more precise. Um, and I learned the same thing whenever I got around Chris. I had Mississippi success. Mississippi success is a whole different world than New York, big city success. So he really helped me realize that B, you ain't really doing nothing yet. But just to kind of keep it on your story, I remember we I want to say I had come to New York maybe three, 4 times before you got your vehicle. But I remember, going to see the exotic cars, going to the Ferrari, um, Maserati dealership, him just kind of showing me the day in the life of his, typical day. And I'm like, man, like this is just so different. And he had a conversation with you about the things that you had to do, changes you had to make, and you made a pretty significant upgrade with your vehicle. Just kind of share a little bit about that, and we can use that to kind of leeway or segue into some of the things specifically that you're doing in the financial space right now.
So let's just start with networking, right? Let's just start with network because that's where it started. Um, A lot of people didn't understand. A lot of people don't understand like why you have certain people in your life, or why you've made the decision to keep friends in your life. Because believe it or not, when you get to a certain age, you need to have friends that are all the assets. There's friends that are comfortable because they've been there since you were children, since since you guys were kids, and there's also friends that, because one thing about Chris, he did it to you, he did it to me. He'll tell you, it's not big enough. Playing small.
Hmm.
That, or he'll give you one of these. That's it, right? You know that. That's it. Like, and then that you're either gonna go one or two ways. You're gonna be get offended, or you're gonna go, I was scared to say this, but I do want more. Right? That's where I'm cut from. I didn't want to say 500 million. I didn't know if that would offend people. Then when you start being around people that make $500 million or worth $500 million, then you're like, oh, this is normal to think like this. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've understood when it comes to going to the next level. One, your network is your net worth. Two, you mentioned it in the beginning of the call. You said you're a product of it. There was a rap song, and the lyric was, "I'm a product of my environment. Nothing can save me." I forgot what rapper said it, right? And I don't know if it was Tupac, or that was one of my guys. I don't know if it was, when I started listening to that, I was like, wow. And I started looking around, and you'll see poverty all around you. You see struggle all around you. You see strife all around you. You'll start to understand, wow, people are products of their environment, the trauma that they carry. And I knew I took it was when I got accepted to West Virginia, just landing in the coal mining state. And I'm just like, there's sun, there's snow, there's mountain lions, there's a bunch of college students, because it's a college town, no professional town. So, in that state, when you have a college town, the college team is the pro team. And
Yep.
when you understand the energy that
Mm.
people use to support their team, I said, this is it.
Yep.
I get how powerful networking is. I get it. And I would tell any young child or any young person going to school, yeah, your degree concentration is, it's important. It's right up there, right? What you take, your electives are probably more important than your course of study, because you want to be well rounded. But the number one goal when you get to school, when you get first day on campus, make sure everyone knows your name. Make sure when you leave in those 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, whenever you decide to leave, that everyone knows your name and knows who you are as a person, and that you stood for something, and they would want to partner with you. They're like, hey, Brian, oh yeah, you remember Brian? Yeah, he did all the speakings. You know what? I got a speaking engagement. He's the guy. Hey, Brian, are you still doing that thing? Yeah, I charge 250,000 per engagement. No problem. I'll cut the check. You understand that? Like, that's
Yes,
the mindset.
man. Like you got my hair on my head standing up right now because, and I'll tell you, I'm gonna take you. I'm gonna show you, not tell you. So when I went back for my master's degree, I left Miami. It wasn't for the degree; it was for the network. And I networked like crazy, and I left a legacy. So this is me and my daughter. This
Mm,
is on the marketing material for the University of
okay.
Southern Mississippi. My daughter and myself on this. This is the first business I built with the
Hmm.
university.
Hmm.
You go into the department right now, there's a big, um, like a big photo collage picture frame, and my daughter, myself, um, on there, and multiple different locations. You go to the university's the department's website. I'm on the front of it. You go to the Facebook page. I'm on the banner. You got to leave a legacy, but the only way you can do that, like you said, everybody got to know your name. They got to know what you're about. They got to know that I didn't come here to play around. I came here on a mission, and I'm gonna rub some people the wrong way, but I'm gonna rub the right people the right way. So certain individuals are going to be attracted to me, and those are the individuals that I'm gonna be able to lock arms with, and we're gonna move mountains together. So you have to be that type of person. And this is the big one that you mentioned. I want to make sure that we hit on is you can only see as far as that which you've been exposed to, or those who you've been exposed to. If you, like you said, if you've never been in a room where people comfortably talk about making, $1 million every 4 or 5 months, you sound like you're being an asshole to even have the audacity to think that you can do that, because the people around you don't believe that. They're like, why would you even, like, people, we don't make money like that. But when you
Mhm.
get around people who have that type of conversation on a regular basis, it becomes normal to you. I remember I was hanging with my lady last year. She was just like, you know what? I think I want to get a new car. The next day, went to the dealership, got a brand new car. I'm like, woman, like that's how you living. And you have to be around people who have gotten to a stage in life to where they're not limited by those who are around them, but they're pulled by those who are around them. They're stretched. And when you develop the proper network, you can become stretched. You can be around those individuals that see more in you than you see in yourself, simply because you only see in yourself what was a reflection of who and what was around you beforehand. So, that's huge that you mentioned that. Um, I want to kind of take it a little bit deeper in the financial space. I had a guy, he's in our mail group chat. Um, Dre reached out to me yesterday and pretty much told me he's ready to get back active, take action.
He actually
So
called me yesterday. I have to return his
yeah,
call. Yeah.
yeah, he hit me. I was actually filming at the time for my 31-day challenge. He hit me. I text him, hey, I'm filming right now. I hit you right back. He let me know he's ready to get rolling and such. But I mentioned him because I remember we went to that very first conference, the very first convention in Orlando, and we're sitting in there, and like the top eight or so income earners in that company look like me and you, and we had already met a few of them before, and I'm like, now I know they ain't no better than me. Like,
That was a crazy time.
so, but you get around them and they're living in the high rises. They're living in the penthouses. They're driving the Lamborghinis. And they're living that life. And it just goes to show they've been in that environment for long enough that that's become the norm.
Hmm.
So that's the importance of the work that you're doing when it comes to education. Financially educating people, you're bringing it to where they see finances as not as intimidating as it was before. They can actually save more money than they thought they could. They can actually live off of less than what they thought they could. And slowly but surely, that could position them to live at a different level. So, kind of share with the people like your core focuses right now. I know you mentioned fitness, you mentioned finance. Now, fitness is what gravitated me towards you, because I saw you on Instagram. Like, just, I'm talking about 3 o'clock in the morning my time, 4 o'clock your time. Like, consistently, like I wouldn't get up until maybe five something six, and I look at the timestamp of when you shared it. Damn it, this dude shared this like 4 hours ago. So seeing that consistency in your fitness life, and then learning, okay, like he in the financial space now too, or he helping people in the business space too. So kind of tell the people what you do in each of those areas and why does it make sense for you to be operating in all three of those different areas.
So we wanted to touch back on when you were saying the kind of the process of getting to when you like get an exotic car or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, what happened was it was like you said, visualization, right? First you get brought to Ferrari, and when you walk into Ferrari, it can be a little daunting when you see cars in the walkway that are like $1.5 million, right? It's a little daunting because you're like, wait, I know this car I got is about $30,000, and or this car that I'm driving is like $800, and you see a car is 1.5, and then you start to understand that it's not about the car, it's about the value. And that was very big for me when I got into the Ferrari that I drove, or I got into the first Maserati that I drove, or I got into the first Lamborghini that I drove. You start understanding, okay, this car takes gas just like every other car, but it's the value. Then you start understanding the craftsmanship that it was built with. You start understanding the time that it takes to create one of these cars, right? Then you start understanding, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to be something that shows people how to craft your life, the craftsmanship that you've been built with, the time that it's going to take to build that legacy. And then at the end, your value is insurmountable where someone's going to pay you because you are the reflection of that value. So that was just one thing how I got into a car, started driving a car, and I started it was at one time I started driving my regular car, and then I started acting like I had paddle shifters. We talk about that visualization, right?
Mhm.
And then you start understanding if you say it, you act like it, and you're putting the work in to do it. They say the universe just brings it to you, and I'm telling you, it's not a fairy tale. It's real talk. So when we talk about what we do here at the Trimmingham Group, what we do is we take a person, we'll say, hey, what's your status? What do you do? How much do you make? And what do you want to make? Right? I always like to attach real life goals and real life focuses to whatever a person wants to do. Once I understand what your goal is, and if you say, hey, my goal is to buy a house, I'll ask you, is that it? Right? Because we're not small minded. Is that it? Because you'll talk to a person and be like, yeah, all I want is two houses and a dog. That's it. A house and two dogs and some kids and a spouse. There's some people who that's their $1 million. That's what they want. And if that's what you want, that's cool. But I'm going to show you that life's a little bit much bigger. And then that's usually what happened after that. What we do is we take an individual, we write down, we start with a budget. I believe nothing in this world can be done without a budget. We talk about a budget on a vacation, a budget on a car, a budget on a house, a budget to go grocery shopping. Nothing good comes without the budget. So that's the
But
first thing of what I
what
do.
if I just want to wing it? I can't just wing it.
Can't wing it.
Damn it. Ain't
Can't
no
wing
way.
it. Can't because I'll give you. And if I met a client and they said, hey, I just want to wing it, I'll ask them, haven't you been winging it all your life?
Right?
Right? You've been winging it all your life. You've tried. You've gotten paid, and every time you get paid, you spend a little, you give out a little, you borrow a little, and you're right back to zero. And this happens every single day. And what people don't understand is your life is a bunch of patterns. And once you break the pattern, once you understand, man, I gotta break this pattern, you start to understand. So I take a client either either from physical or financially, and we meet them where they're at, and we say, hey, this is the plan. For physical, we're going to work on your mindset, diet, and your frequency of working out. Then we're going to understand your calorie intake, and then we're going to say, okay, we're going to build a plan out for you, and we're going to get you to X. When it comes to finance, it's different because everyone's situation is different. The body's the body, but everyone's situation is different. And when it comes to finances, first we want to strip your whole situation down. Budget. Nothing starts without the budget. We start with a budget, and then we get you to living off of 20% of your income. Then once we get you to living off of 20% of your income, we get you to building your emergency fund. Emergency fund, we're gonna start. Then we're gonna help you build your Roth, your mutual funds. We're gonna get you investing, and we're gonna make sure that you are now building blocks to financial freedom. Then how you want to live is up to you.
Right. Now tell kind of highlight to the people because this word has been thrown around so much that I feel like people don't even know what it means specifically to them. When you say you specifically, when you say financial freedom, what does that specifically look like when it comes to when you're working with a client? What is that? What does financial freedom actually look like?
Let's just take. Let's just be all the way. Let's just make it real pre-K. Financial freedom is living life without any financial stress.
Or
That's
blanket?
it. No stress. I want it. I see it. I can do it. You don't necessarily have to buy it. I can do it.
And
You understand that? Right? I can. Right? Um, let's just say, and we're not talking about frivolous things here. We're not talking about a bag, a car. We're talking about, you know what? The bills for the year are paid. The rent, the mortgage for the year paid. That's freedom.
Hmm.
House paid off. Freedom. You talk about the person, the girl, she just bought the car. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't, oh man, I got a budget for this. I'm going to go buy the car. I got it because she was disciplined for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
Um, that freedom of, or that stress, that entrepreneurial stress, you have a bill because you got to build a program. You have to build a business. You have to pay the taxes quarterly. You have to pay people if you have employees. That that entrepreneurial stress. My my employees all pay for the year. I got all they're all their budgets. I got everything for the year. That's financial freedom. I go. I want to get on a plane. I'm going. I want to.
That's
I want to sleep. I want to sleep in that 7-star hotel. I'm going. Freedom.
and that's the thing. Like people here people hear both sides of the coin when it comes to entrepreneurship. They hear the people who just hit it big, live in a high life, and that just seems untouchable. That's what they want. They want the untouchable. But then they hear about the people who putting in the work every single day, going through the grind, the stress, this, that, and the third. They don't realize that's where you want to be. Like that's what you need to be really learning about because if you are willing and able to do that for X number of years, all you have to do is do that for a good 5 to 10 years, and then the rest of the time you're free. But
Hmm.
if you go the traditional route, you're in a structure. You may be secure, but you're stuck in that structure, just the brink of security, but not freedom, the illusion
Mm,
of security, but not freedom, until you're so old that you can't even really go out and enjoy yourself.
right.
I'm not the person that, and you can kind of speak to, to retirement, but I'm not the person that is saying, I can't wait till I hit 65, 67 so I can retire. I am working on getting to this number so I can chunk the deuces to having to work as soon as possible. And that's the thing, so many people get caught up in and going based off of what the system says you're supposed to go off of, instead of saying there's actually people out here in their 20s that don't have to go to work anymore if they don't want to.
Talk
And
about it.
that's freedom. And I know one of my goals, one of my primary goals is to get to where all of my active income is just to throw into investments. All of my expenses are taken care of by my returns on my investments. Like I don't have to work. My investment returns are paying all of my life expenses.
Hmm.
And that's freedom. When you no longer have to work unless you want to. So, what are some of the things that you kind of pour into your clients when it comes to getting them, especially in today's day, these crazy, economic times? Like, what are some of the things you just kind of went into it? But for those who are really trying to focus on retirement specifically, what are some things you like to put in place?
Okay, so I'll go through it. What are some things that I like to do? So there's a bunch of disciplines that I have, right? And I institute into some of my clients. Um, it's living off 80% of your income. A lot of people live off their whole income, and they're never really able to save. So there's a couple things I have that I I drive to my clients. So one is you create a realistic budget, right? When you create that realistic budget, it has to be essentials, wants, savings, and investments, right? So you have to be very methodical and truthful with yourself. A lot of people they get on a budget and they don't put in. Oh, I do my hair and nails. They don't put in everything. This we write down everything and we get really down to the nitty gritty. Maybe you do your nails every week. Maybe it's once a month now. Maybe it's once every 2 months, right? Because there's some cutbacks that need to be made so we can save. They said that 99% of 99% of the people don't have $1,500 in an emergency fund if something was supposed to happen. That's really scary for me, right? So step one would be to create a realistic budget. Step two is to cut back strategically, which we talked about, right? You would put down things like housing, food, and transportation, and then utilities and subscriptions, and discretionary spending, right? We want to make sure that we everything has a home. They said if you're really serious about for your finances, you will know what you make every month, income wise, what goes out every month to the T, and what you have in savings. If you're really serious about finances, right? You'll know your numbers. And one thing Chris always say, he'll call me, "Hey, what's up? You good? What's the numbers?" That's the first thing he says to me. What are the numbers? So until you understand your numbers, you don't really understand your situation. So step one we talked about was creating a budget. Step two was cut back strategically. Step three is build wealth with the 20%, because we're talking about living off of 80% of your income. What would that mean with the 20%? What are we going to do? So some clients are like, well, what do I do with my 20%? I have this $800 at the end of the month, Darren. What do I do with it? First, we want to start an emergency fund. First priority. We want to save 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a high yield savings account, right? We want to pay down high interest debt. That is the kryptonite of America, which is debt, right? Uh, Three, we want to invest in a 401k or a Roth, right? And we want to build a side income, right? How do you build a side income? Biggest question I hear, right? Well, Darren, you think I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to work another part time job? No. You get with people like us and re-engineered minds and the $100 million run group, right? In the Trimmingham Group, you get with people that understand how big a network is and how, all right, we have some things that are open to us that you may not know about. See, the reason why people don't succeed in life is one word: ignorance. Well, two words: ignorance and discipline. Once you're ignorant to something and you don't want to change your discipline, you're just going to stay where you're at. So with that 20%, build side income, right? We're going to use that 20% to learn a new skill, start a new venture, or invest in small assets, right? Those things, right? But I also like to use that for that fourth thing, which is build side income. Get and hire a mentor, someone who can pull you along the way and say, I made that decision. That decision you're about to make cost me $1.5 million. Don't do it. Oh, I know you want to buy a house. I want you know you want to live the American dream. Rent so you have freedom. You're not tied down to that 30-year leash, right?
Mm.
Rent, right? Rent. You could rent in Mississippi for 1 year and then you saved up, did one speaking engagement, changed your life, got a new business partner. Now we buy the penthouse in Miami,
That's
right?
what's up.
It's different, right? So, right. Step four, we want to automate and track progress, right? So what you would do is reach out to me or Brian. We'll automate your progress, right? We'll track spendings, we'll automate savings, we'll track expenses, and we'll also do a monthly review. So my clients, they'll reach out to me and we do a weekly call, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. You're going to tell me where you're at, what you've done. I ask for screenshots every I don't know. Have my clients do their budget on the first and the 15th, so I know, all right. The first 2 weeks they were a little sloppy. Last 2 weeks we're going to tighten up the month. So now going into month two, boom, we're hitting the ball. And I'm aggressive. I'm aggressive. I'll give you a nasty text in the morning. Hey, no Starbucks. Right, right. You go make the coffee at home. And these just little things that we do with our clients to make sure that they hit the goals that they set in place for themselves.
And accountability to the T, man. That's where it's at. And you mentioned two things, and literally, those are like the two things, only two things that hold people back from freedom. Either you're ignorant, and we're all ignorant at something. Like there's something that we lack knowledge of. Ignorance is simply the lack of knowledge. When you lack the knowledge in something, I mean, you don't know what to do. But once you get that knowledge, if you don't implement it on a consistent basis, you lack the discipline. And if you don't put the discipline in place, you really don't want it as bad as you say you want it. So that's one of the, with this 31-day challenge that I have going right now. We're
Hmm.
on the we're on our morning check-in, and whenever we're about to leave, about to end, everybody is like, okay, see you guys, y'all have a good weekend. I'm like, what you mean good weekend? Like, this is every single day. Like, we're back
Hmm.
here tomorrow morning. I
Hmm.
don't know about y'all, but we're back here tomorrow morning, 31 days straight.
Hmm.
I'm filming and dropping a coaching video 31 days straight. There ain't no days off. And the thing is, people say they want something until they want to, oh, I got to celebrate 4th of July.
Hmm.
So 4th of July, which comes every single year, like clockwork, is more
Hmm.
important than you going after what you say you want to go after. You
Hmm.
staying disciplined to get the thing you say you want to stay disciplined. That's why I love the fact that you're working in the space that you're working in. Now, there's entrepreneurs out there that say, you know what, I just want to make T-shirts or make gadgets, or I just want to do something that makes money. I ain't trying to help nobody. I want to make vanity items. I want to make items that just make people feel good because, they can say, I got this. But you're out there really pouring into people in areas that can change their lives and position them to go after the vanity after they got the situation together. And that's why so many of us get caught up in life as we go after the vanity. And I kind of thought about it earlier when we're talking about the vehicles. Most people go after the vanity before they really got it like that, and they
Mm-hmm.
position themselves to never really have it like that financially because you're putting yourself in the hole, trying to save face, trying to show off. Whereas my mom, she shared something on and this is really related to the South. She shared something on Facebook the other day. It was a mobile home, it was a trailer out in the open field. And the caption was like, most people think that when you have a paid off single wide trailer, a paid off um, 2015 model vehicle, you have no debt, and you got $80,000 in the bank, they think you're doing bad. But when you got an $80,000 house that you're paying the mortgage on, you got a $50,000 vehicle that you're paying like $1,000 a month on, and you ain't got no money in the bank, they think you're doing good. And that's the thing. Like so many people who are not doing well will never do well because they're trying to put on this facade. You have to live in what's his name? Eric, not Eric, but Gary V.
Mm.
Said you got to eat shit for a while. Like you gotta get out. You got like they say, you gotta get it out the mud. You gotta be willing to be raggedy for a while. And
You want
when
to know
you're
the one I like?
yeah,
You want to know the one I like?
what
Wallow said
was
it.
that?
You got to take a couple summers off.
Yeah,
You got to take a couple summers off. No vacations, no nothing. You got to take a couple summers off.
man, Darren, from from that from the wealth explosion 2023 until December 2024, I didn't go nowhere. No traveling.
Locked in.
Like I was
Locked in.
gone. And so many things clicked. Contracts popped off, new collaborations popped off, clients from all across the globe popped off. But that's the thing, like you got to shut down the noise. And that's why I'm doing this challenge. It's called Lock In. Like you got to lock in, get rid of the noise, the distractions, the things that are taking you off course, and realize that those people, those things, they're going to be there. I mean, things happen, life happens, but they're going to be there when you get to your destination. But you're going to be a different version of yourself. You're going to be able to live it at a completely different level. And there's a gentleman by the name of Colton Bugs. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you know the name, but he did a training in 2003, if I'm not mistaken. And he was saying how he and his wife got to a point where they say, you know what, we're tired of living the way that we're living. You know, you out here buying this Walmart kit to get your relaxer every week so you can look good. Like, we're gonna stop all that. You're just gonna rock it nappy for a while. Like, we just gonna go bare bones for like a solid year. And then whenever we hit our goal, we're gonna be he was saying, because he was a golfer, he said, I'm not gonna golf for a whole year. And by the time they hit their goals, they were able to golf on the best golf courses in the world. She had a beautician that come to the house to take care of her. Like you're able to live at a complete different level if you just make that temporary sacrifice. But most people, I think it was Miles Monroe, said that more people are willing to face a known hell than
Mm.
a known heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't know if it's gonna work, but if it does work, it could be heaven on the other side. You rather just stay stuck in your situation because I'm comfortable with this. I've survived it so
Mm-hmm.
far. So let me just keep surviving. Mm-mm. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't come here to just to survive. I came here to live.
Mm-hmm.
And you living, man. I know you still ain't nowhere near where you want to be, but
Mm-hmm.
we're so much further than where we were 5, 10,
Mm-hmm.
15 years ago.
Right.
So man, as we get ready to close, man, what's some things like right now that you got launching? What are some products and services that you're taking clients for? Kind of talk to us on that.
So what I'm doing is I want to reach out to I want like 20 real clients that really want to that I'm trying to give a special to this month. because it's the second half of the year. About 20 clients. I'm looking for 20 real clients that really want some change in their life. So they can reach out to me at the TrimminghamGroup.com or on IG, straightwolf underscore. And what I want to do is I want to show them the mistakes that they make. Because a lot of people, it's like a child, right? You can tell a child, hey, don't do that. I always tell my daughter, hey, don't do that. And this is why. So a lot of people, to get them to start to excel, they got to know why that didn't work. This is why it didn't work. I'm showing you the data. This is why it doesn't work, right? And I have some ebooks coming out, and each ebook shows you how to get from step one, step two, step three. And then we talk about performance, right? Performance is all about mentality. Like, I'll tell you what, I didn't work out this morning, and because I was exhausted. So I was like, all right, let me sleep it. This conversation, because I'm seeing you guys, and I'm gonna, as soon as we get off, I'll log in for the 30 minutes. For the 30-day challenge. This conversation has just told me, hey, yeah, we're working 4th of July. You didn't put no pain in though, right? When you can get to the level where you can start to master re-engineer yourself and
Mhm.
hold yourself accountable. Hey, be streets about to go put that work in. You didn't put that work in. So that's where I want to get all my clients. I'm not going hard enough. Let me activate. I'm not going. So what happens is we build a high performance program, and some of the things that I do, I call it billionaire mode. I call it billionaire mode. Billionaire high performance, right? This is something that I have. Why did I say a billionaire? Most people will never understand what it takes to be that. There's a certain level of mindset, right? I just watched an interview with the old Mark Cuban. He sold the Mavericks. He used to give, if you worked with him, say you worked with him for 20 years, he would give you life-changing money. That might be $3 million after your 20 years are done, right? So he gave out he gave out 300 million. He made 300 clients, 300 employees millionaires
That's wild.
in one day,
That's
right?
gold.
We want to make sure that whenever we attain anything, we're distributing in it too, right? So we attain knowledge, we distribute to our clients. You cannot ascend if you don't give. So this is a couple of things that I've come up with, and I get them to my clients. Most important thing, nothing starts without a routine. So that's what we start with, our discipline. 5 to 5, you wake up at 5 to 6 a.m. I'm an early riser. I'm 3:30 and up, right? We call it rise and lock in at 5 to 6, right, and that constitutes waking up early, no snooze, no shoozing, no scrolling, silence for 5 minutes, deep breaths. We move our body, right, working out, visualize our future reality, spend 2 to 3 minutes of gratitude, affirmations, and rewiring, right. After that, we go from 6 a.m. to 9. We do some deep focus work, right. This is your golden window, right? Because there's no phone, no distractions, and you work on your number one mission: critical tasks, strategies, offers, sales moves, partnerships. From 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is execution and outreach, right? Client work, sales calls, team building. From 11 to 12 is recharging, walk, gym, stretch, eat fruit. 3 is business blocks, right? Group coaching, leadership skills, marketing, using batch tasks to avoid scattered energy. From s- and from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. is you learn and build. Now that happens, right? Maybe someone after work, they had a 9 to 5. They come in, we go straight to learn and build. Get the kids ready. We'll go into learn and build, right? With that learn and build, skill stacking time where they'll reach with out to me or you, and we're doing models, we're doing systems, and sometimes building content for them, and you're working on skills that you know you need to increase on, right? And that's every single day, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's homework, there's work for the client to do, so that 3 to 6 months from now, you'll be a different version of yourself.
That's it, man. Most people allow the outside world to dictate their course of life instead of putting structure in place for themselves like that. I'm telling you, man, and you already know. People ain't gonna just call me and take my time. People not gonna just drop by and I'm gonna stop what I'm doing. Like I'm gonna go in my room. You can hang out here you want to. I'm on a structured, like I have things in place and you're not gonna throw me off. When you put structure in place, you are giving yourself control of your life instead of allowing yourself to kind of go with the whims of what the world wants you to go with. So we're gonna make sure that we drop those resources in the description box on YouTube, in the chat box, comments on Facebook. But yeah, man, I appreciate the insight. We definitely gonna have you back. We're gonna pick an area. We're gonna focus in on it. But before we go, I want to make sure that everybody, and actually, let me drop it in the comments. I need everybody to go to his Instagram, straight wolf underscore, right?
Hmm.
Everybody go to his Instagram and I want you to follow him and pay attention to his consistency and intensity when it comes to working out. Because as you guys probably already have heard, the way you do one thing is typically the way you do everything. So if you kill it in the gym, if you're disciplined in the gym, it's so much easier to be disciplined in all these other areas in life. If you slack in the gym, if you say, "All right, well, I'm gonna take today off. I just don't feel it," you're probably gonna say the same thing about other areas of your life.
Hmm.
So with that being said, man, I'm about to go outside as soon as we get finished. I got all my equipment on the back porch, so I'm about to get
I'm about
my
to
work,
get in.
then do some yard work. Come in here, straight sweaty, get me a shower, then I'll continue the day. But appreciate your time, man. We definitely gonna be in communication. I'll send you the the link after I get everything updated for YouTube. We're gonna chop
Hmm.
this up,
Hmm.
make sure you use it to the best. But for everybody that's watching, make sure that you check out Darren Trimmingham on Instagram, Straight Wolf. I'm gonna drop his website and all that good stuff in the comments. Guys, I'm telling you, if you want somebody that's like I said, high intensity and consistent, if you need that in your life, he's your guy. And I already told him like he stuck with me for a hot minute because I don't find too many guys that's really going after it the way he's going after. Um, and that's what we need around us. So off that note, Darren, I'm gonna put you backstage real quick. I'm gonna close out with the audience, and I'm gonna come back with you, and we'll close out.
Take care, guys.
All right, man. All right, guys. So that's another one. I always love bringing on people that I've been working with for a while, and then learn new stuff about them that I've been knowing for a while, and learn new things about them. So he dropped a few things in there that that were new to me, but it all made sense, and it made me realize why he is the way that he is in certain areas of life. So guys, make sure you check him out. The website is the Trimmingham Group.com. I'll drop that in the chat or in the comment section and the description on YouTube, and Straight Wolf underscore on Instagram. So with that being said, guys, this was another episode of Legacy Dialogues. If you think that you would be a good guest, you want to, promote whatever you got going on, or you just want to come have a dialogue about leaving legacies, period, and just speak about your life in the direction that you desire to go in, reach out, let me know. I got a few individuals who have already confirmed that they would like to come on. So I'll probably have them coming on not next week, but the following week. But until then, you guys can catch me on all socials. Your Legacy Begins Now website. Your Legacy Begins Now. We'll see you on the flip. Y'all take it easy.